Well, Izzy, it hasn't been fun watching sports for the most part recently, has it? No. Um, I suppose the Everton game was entertaining.
Yes.
And it was surprising that we went out on the front foot right from the off, didn't play the type of football that we had been playing. But against City we did. And in both cases, it didn't work. Either approach just didn't work. And the reason was the same both times. If your defenders and goalkeeper can't do the simplest of tasks and make the type of ridiculous errors they have been making time and time again, you're never going to be consistent. You're never going to get anywhere. We scored 4 against Everton, away from home, against a decent side. 4 goals away from home, and we still managed to lose the game. I mean, it's mad stuff.
Yeah.
And we were sad against City. It looked like they barely broke a sweat. The third goal was probably the most comical thing I've seen. I think the only thing this season that's been as comical as that was the penalty Dyer gave away against Chelsea, which was also just despicable, mad stuff.
Yeah.
Sanchez is a big man, and he gets brushed away like a child. I can tell you now, at nearly 50 years of age, if I was playing, City don't score that third goal. I might have got sent off in the process. City don't score that third goal. How does he get pushed off? You just don't let that happen. It doesn't matter. You don't let it happen. He just pushed him aside. Like he wasn't there. And it's not like it was a big, huge, strong City player pushing over a little weak Spurs player. It wasn't like they're the big, huge, tall fella they have pushing Winks aside. They're swatting him like a fly. It was a smaller player pushing Sanchez, the big man, away because he's just weak. And then he ends up confused, didn't know where he was, ends up on his butt. You just cut. If you were to make up a calamitous goal for Spurs to let in, I mean, you'd do well to come up with something better than that. Lloris should have saved the penalty. And he should have saved the second one, particularly the second one. I don't know how he let it in. Comical again. Everton's first goal, same thing. Well hit, but he's got 2 hands behind the ball. How does that go in? A couple of the other Everton goals were a bit suspect as well. If it's not Sanchez getting caught out, it's Dyer. If it's not Dyer getting caught out, it's Davies. They are just not fit for purpose. I mean, they can't all be doing it on purpose to try and get the manager sacked. Or because they want to transfer out. I mean, it's not how you go about it. You know, surely not.
Mm-hmm.
They just, and I think as well, a team can carry a certain amount of passengers. If the rest of the team is good enough, an ordinary player can work in there. Not all great teams have had 11 great players. There can always be lesser players in there. And in fairness to Davies, he was part of the best Spurs team I've ever seen, the 2016-17 season.
Mm-hmm.
When Danny Rose got injured for the last, I suppose it was the best part of the second half of the season. Davies played a lot of games. Dyer did as well. But they're just better players around them. Playing in slightly different positions as well. And yeah, it worked, but not now. Not now, and not together with Sanchez in the mix as well. Sanchez was signed the season after that, so he's been around for a while. This is third or fourth season. So he would have been signed in summer 17. So yeah, he's been here a while, and he's not getting any better. I mean, we can't say he's young and inexperienced anymore. He just simply isn't up to it. And Dyer isn't getting better. And Davies isn't getting better. I mean, at least Davies is not first choice and Reggie has to come back in. But the other two, just despair. So, I mean, after the Everton game, I was left thinking, well, has that just worked in Jose's favour, whether he meant it or not? I mean, part of me was thinking he did it on purpose to say, well, look, lads, if we go all out against a decent team and attack, we're going to let in 5 goals because we can't defend to save our lives. Doesn't matter how much coaching we give them, these players are just prone to errors. Now, I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but certainly it would have suited us if he did. But then you go and play the other way, try and defend so that there's 11 players defending, so it helps out those defenders, helps them not get exposed. But that didn't work either because they still got exposed. It's just comical, and we didn't get a whole load of luck in those games either. There was a ridiculous penalty against us in both games. Ridiculous. I cannot understand how either of them was a penalty. Any sort of coming together in the box and the attacker goes down to penalty. I mean, it doesn't even seem to have to be a foul anymore. I mean, the City one. Watching us in real time, I was, free out. Even though the ball went out of play. I was saying free out because I thought, well, it's a free out, it's not a corner. I was shocked that it was a penalty. And I thought, there's no way the VAR will overturn it. Didn't. I cannot believe it. It was a clear free out. Could see it in real time and the replay showed the same. But no. And you have the TV commentator saying, oh, he was clumsy. Højbjerg was clumsy. He was fouled, man. Yeah, so, we didn't have luck there. Kane hit the post as well against City. If that goes in, well, maybe things could be a little bit different, but at the same time, they still have errors in them. But I think after the 120 minutes against Everton, once that first goal went in, and particularly the second one, the heads just went down, and that was that. Which is in itself is disappointing. I mean, look back now at the last... I just noted it down here. In the last 12 league games, Spurs have won 3, drawn 3 and lost 6. And that is lower half of the table form. And I think it's maybe a little bit better than the relegation form. But it's not top half of the table form. Never mind top 4 form. Last 6 games, 1-2, drew none, lost 4. And in the form table there, if we were taking the last 6 games as a little mini table on its own, we would be 16th. That's where we're at. 16th is just above relegation zone. So that's the way we're playing at the moment. And we can be back to the same thing again. Who's to blame? Is it the players? Is it the manager? Or is it the board? Because ultimately they pick the manager. And they are in charge of what happens at the club. Yeah, it's probably everyone's fault. And I know the fan base are frustrated and arguing about it. And there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. We're out of the FA Cup. We've got a League Cup final against Man City, the team that just spanked us in second gear. It's hard to feel any optimism going into that game. We need them to do something farcical and get a couple of players sent off in the first half. Yeah. Or we need them, we need them to... A few injuries. Well, again, I don't wish that on anyone, but I was going to say...
one that'll just take a week.
We want them all to get small injuries that will have them out for a week. But I fear that their B team, they put all their second choice players in, they'd still beat us. What they need is the entire squad to get a bad lasagna the night before.
I'll get sick.
Yeah, well, it's before your time. Back in the day, Spurs were in 5th as far as I recall, and they had to win the game to finish 4th and get into the Champions League. And it was away to West Ham. And most of the squad got sick after a dodgy lasagna the day before or the morning before the game. One or the other. And they were all sick playing. And the league wouldn't call the game off. So yeah, so when I talk about the dodgy lasagna, I talk about that, and Spurs lost the game. And they were just awful, they didn't turn up. And that was the excuse. If Man City get a dodgy lasagna, the game gets postponed. Wait and see. Yeah. But yeah, the fact that we're talking about such things just shows that we've got absolutely no optimism for that game. The league the league is gone, long gone. Even though finishing in the top 4 is still, with 15 odd games to go, we're only a few points off. Because all the other teams around us are comical as well. Liverpool are comical. United dropping points as well. City and Leicester seem to be strong, but the rest of them, not so much. So you never know. But any of those teams that goes on a run, yeah, they can do the job. But we just don't look like we have it in us to go on a run. And that's the difference. We look like we're going steadily backwards. And we have the Europa League now on round of 32, isn't it? On Thursday, an away game against Wolfsburger, an Austrian team. The game's been played in Hungary for some reason or other. I suppose we have to fancy ourselves in that game.
But not too sure, because I've never ever heard of
they're an
team.
they're an unknown quantity, so we don't know. But
it's a mystery.
It's their first knockout tie in European football. So we have to fancy ourselves. We've won European trophies. We've been to the Champions League final in recent years. I mean, as European teams go, we're not the top of the top, but we're certainly not bottom of the bottom either, by any means. So, we have to fancy ourselves in that. But there's a lot of good teams left in that. Leicester are left in it. Man United are left in it. That's not getting into any other teams from other countries. Yeah, there's good teams left in it. I don't see us doing any damage in that unless there's some sort of radical change. And it's looking to me that unless there's some really unexpected upturn in fortunes, that this team is going to end up with a worse season than last year. And Mourinho will have had the full season. It's not looking good. It just isn't. As I said, I don't know whether the players are disinterested, whether he's lost the dressing room. But it's like there's something at the club that it doesn't seem to matter who the players or manager is. It doesn't seem to matter who the manager is, who the players are. It's like there's something in the DNA of the club that makes it just revert to this after a while, no matter who's on the pitch or who's in charge. And it's hard to know what that is. I mean, we can blame the owners. They didn't shell out the cash when the time was right. In my opinion, they overreached in the stadium, which was at around the same time. Yeah, maybe it can be argued that there's a certain amount of bad timing, but you only get an opportunity like that once in a generation. A team like Tottenham, who are not quite at the top table, we had a chance to push on and we didn't do it. We haven't had that chance in 40 years. And what do? We blow it. And a new stadium, if we ever get people back into it, isn't going to bring success on its own, and gate revenue isn't going to bring success unless it's put back into the team wisely. All you have to do is look at Newcastle. Big stadium, plenty of fans, rubbish team. So, very frustrating. So do you think there's anything that can be done or anything that we can do to turn things around? What would you do? Would you drop lorries?
Maybe Daniel leaving. Maybe you get someone else to own.
Yeah, but at this point, Levy's not going to sell. I mean, surely he's not. I'd be very surprised if he does at the moment. I think things have to be on an upturn again before he does that.
Sell it to some really, really, really like a billionaire.
Yeah, but basically do a Chelsea or a City on it. Yeah, well, that would be, if that worked out, that happened and it worked out, that would be great. But in the short term, that's just simply not going to happen. The current world climate, people aren't going around buying football clubs. There's just so much uncertainty. I meant more from a team point of view. Would you suggest maybe changing the goalkeeper for the next couple of games? Because it's just terrible form. Would you pick a central defensive partnership and stick with it? One that didn't include Dyer and Sanchez. I mean, Tanganga played well at right back, but I think right back isn't our worst position. I mean, Aurier has surprised us this year. Hopefully he gets back from injury soon. Maybe Tanganga deserves a go at centre back for the rest of the season. the other guys have made so many mistakes, they don't deserve a second chance. You know, there was a lot of stuff frustrating about the game, even the forward players. Lamella played well against Everton, but against City, he just was back to his old tricks, holding on to the ball too long. But he was one of the few players looking for the ball, but when he gets it, he doesn't seem to be able to release it. But at the same time, I don't think our players make angles for a pass the way teams like City do. Players like Lamella and Lucas tend to run into blind alleys anyway. But when there isn't people there left and right looking for the ball, what else are they supposed to do? I mean, if we go back to the Chelsea game, we were chronic at that. Nobody wanted the ball. It was like, no, we don't want this ball. Very frustrating. I know in between that, there was the West Brom game, and we won that, but they had 2 goals disallowed. Rightly so in both cases, but small margins. On a different day, Spurs being Spurs, that game's a draw. Same way the Fulham game was, same way the Wolves game was, West Ham, Newcastle. So, and I think we'll finish with the next bit. If you don't have an answer to that with the change of the personnel. Next league game is against West Ham. Away, and I think if we get turned over, that is there, especially with it being them. Jose has to be under serious pressure. I mean, could you just imagine now if we lose that game, and if hypothetically if there was fans back in the stadium, could you just imagine the reception he'd get? Between the fact that most fans didn't want them in the first place, and just how terrible things have been. I mean, have we lost 4 games out of 5? It'll be 5 games out of 6. That's relegation form. That's what it will eventually have got to. So it's not good. So, what else? Why we're complaining? Special word for Harry Winks against Everton. I've never seen, apart from, I was going to say I've never seen anything as sad in my life, but then there was Sanchez against City. So before that, Winks. What was he thinking? It was like they brought a schoolboy on it. They might as well have brought a 12-year-old on. I mean, you couldn't have come up with something as bad. I mean, if somebody wanted to go on and sabotage the game on purpose, they couldn't have done it any better. Now, you have to wonder at times, what is Jose thinking bringing Winks on? And the Sissoko substitution against City, it was like, well, we're 1-0 down, lads. That's not so bad. Let's hang on to the 1-0 defeat. What's he thinking? 1-0 down, you have to go for it. Or at least stay in the game. But it just didn't work out. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough season to get through. At this point, I hope to be proven wrong, but I think we get nothing out of it. And I think Jose will go in the summer. Mm-hmm. I think the pressure will be too high. I mean, Levy sacked managers for a lot less. I know we're going to owe him a stack of money and all, but surely this can't continue. I mean, can you think of any positives in the last couple of games? I just can't think of any. There was lots of talk about Tanguy after the games against Sheffield United and Wickham, but against the big teams, yeah, he has a few nice moments, does a few tricks, but most of the time he's just not involved. Højbjerg looks knackered. He's making mistakes that he wasn't making up until now, and he's looked poor in the last couple of games. What on earth is going on? Just Son is completely ineffective. In fairness, Kane has scored a couple of goals, but he's been quiet as well. And Bale, I suppose, did reasonably well when he came on. That might be the only positive note. And if you were to look at the remaining fixtures, at least we've got City out of the way. We don't have to play them again. We don't have to play Liverpool again. We don't have to play Chelsea again. We have to play Man United at home, Arsenal away, and Leicester away, which is the last game of the season, I think. So we don't have the hardest run in. But it's Spurs. We find ways to blow us against so-called lesser teams. We have to go away to Fulham. Games like that, we probably still won't win. So I just find no reason to be optimistic at all. What about you?
Mm-hmm.
No?
Just don't really think we're going to do too well.
Yeah, I'm finding it hard to remember a time that I was, I'm not sure what the right word is, whether it's obsessed, disappointed, disinterested, apathetic, mixture of all those things. I mean, there was a time in the 90s and early 2000s, times then when we were just awful. But I had no expectations. Didn't expect to win any game. It's so different after we had done so well, and it's only a few seasons ago we were in the Champions League final. And it's that fall from grace that just makes it so much more disappointing than it's ever been before. And the fact that I think we have blown our chance to get at that top table for good. Just with that stadium now hanging around our neck, we're just not going to spend. We need a miracle. We need to get young players coming, a group of young players coming through that are top class. The type of thing, a group of them that like what happened at Man United back in the 90s. That doesn't happen often. We need something like that to happen because we're not going to buy our way out with this. Levy has appointed, I don't know how many managers since he took over. He's been at the club 20 years. I think it was 2001. I think one of the first things he did was sack George Graham before an FA Cup semi-final. Might have been 2000. Or 2019 or 99, sometime around then. So it's a lot. It's 20 years at least, 20 plus years, and we've won one trophy. And he's signed bad manager after bad manager after bad manager. He got lucky with Pochettino. And even on the face of it, Jose looked like a good signing. We seem to have got the Man United Jose who was already past his peak. That's how it's looking at the moment. We didn't get the Porto Jose, our first time round, the Chelsea Jose, or even the Inter Jose. Just didn't happen. It's looking like we are going to be the first team where Mourinho hasn't won a trophy. That's where we're going. Now, could be wrong. We could surprise ourselves against City. But it could only happen at Spurs. He could have gone anywhere else. He could have gone to Everton or West Ham or somewhere. He would have won them a trophy. But no, not Spurs. Mm-hmm. We're just special in that way. And that's what we have to live with. So, anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, till the next time.